Part 1, Photo Transfer Medium. We are going to start with just the regular gloss formula. Then we'll use the original photo transfer medium. Then for the third one, we'll use the new clear formula. To start out, you need your brushes, a squeegee. You can use an old credit card, spatula, whichever works. And I printed off some laser copies. They need to be laser. Inkjet does kind of work. It's a process. You have to let them dry for a few days. Then you have to spray it with hairspray, and it's kind of actually more hassle than what it's worth, I think. And when you're rubbing off the paper, it takes some of the ink with, so the image isn't as bright. This is what I'm going to use today. This is just kind of a piece of MDF or something. Piece of wood. And then one that I painted that I'll be using one of the clear formulas on. It's actually quite a simple process. The hardest part about doing photo transfer is that you have to wait 24 hours in order for it to dry. But first off, we'll start with the gloss formula. And it's always good to have a wet wipe or a rag or something handy so that you don't get any slops. You can leave it, you don't want to leave it sitting there because then you'll get clumps on your project. Let's go like that. And this is the only time I actually recommend using a thick coat of Mod Podge. You know, in all my other videos and in the old group and stuff, I always said, you know, thin coats are better. This is one time that you actually want to use a liberal amount. I hope you can see that okay. And the tricky part, you want to make sure you don't have any fingerprints on it, because wherever it is thin, like this spot right here, it won't transfer. Should have planned this out a little bit better. So, just go like that. Lay it on the board. Since these are just demos, I'm really not too worried about getting it on there really straight or anything. But then you take your squeegee and you kind of want to start from the center and push out. So you want to make sure you don't have any air bubbles. I did drag a little bit of podge across there, but I'm thinking that will be okay. When it dries, I'll just make sure I wet it a little more in that area. But that's as simple as it is. You make sure there isn't any air bubbles. And you can use your hand, pretty much anything you can use to smooth it out. But if you have any air bubbles, wherever those air bubbles are, the transfer most likely won't happen. I have gotten it to a few times where there was a bubble and it still transferred, but it was very light, which that's kind of a stinker, because bubbles makes it look not as nice. Sometimes though, it gives it a nice worn look, so it makes it look old. And always have your jar of water handy to stick your brush in. Next, we'll go to the original formula photo transfer. And this one you can actually just squirt it right onto the image. And this you want pretty thick too. Probably not as thick as I have it. My brush isn't cooperating. But you really don't want to see your image coming through. But I'm smoothing it out so I don't have all these on my brush marks so drastic. So then with this one I have my little paint knife. I'll use that to help bring the image up. I'm going to lift it up here just to make sure I have it going in the right direction. I didn't really show it closely, but it's actually, I call it a butterfly spirit. I don't know how many of you know that I actually raised monarchs in the summer. So finding a butterfly spirit image was pretty neat. I was like, I have to try a project with that. Then again, we'll start from the center and squeegee out. I'll eventually, when this is finished, paint the rest of it white. This is just a regular baby wipe. Keep baby wipes on my desk so I can always get the paint off my hands and stuff right away. Because I'm pretty good at getting it all over my face, in my hair. But I think any crafter does that. And anywhere with the original formula, since it does dry white, if I left that right there, it would dry white. Granted, it's not such a big deal because I am going to be painting this white anyways. See, all the bubbles are out. And that little bit that's right there that's really thin really shouldn't have any kind of effect tomorrow when I go to sponge it off. And it's always nice too if you have a silicone mat like this. I have 4 different types of mats that I use. This one you guys might like because this is from the baking section at the craft store. I think its original price was like $7.99 or something like that. You know, and you can always use your coupon, get it for 40% off. I also have a Teflon mat that I got for my birthday. And this thing works pretty slick. Especially if you're doing the iron-on method with Mod Podge or decoupage or however. We're not really going to specifically promote anybody or everybody. So here's my image for this one. Wanted to make it a little bit different. These are the 2 colors in my craft room besides the white. But this one, this is my first time doing this method. This one hasn't been on the market for too long. And I don't always think about going and getting photocopies made. Used to printing just regular photos. I'm going to just squirt it on there. And just like the other 2, you want to put it on really liberally. Liberally, is that a word? Liberal. Thick. But not too thick. I put too much on, but be okay. As I have my towel right here. In some videos that I have seen, they go in multiple directions. Some go in one direction. They have different, each one claims a different method, I guess you could say. Here, let me pull this over, just like that. The big thing too, make sure you go over your edges. To make sure that they're down flat. I really like the clear formulas just because if you do have some that are some of the formula that's coming out like on the edges there, you don't really have to worry about it. And you can do a light sanding on it afterwards. But depending on what kind of sponge I use tomorrow to remove the paper, it just might come off anyways. So, but there it is. This is the clear formula. See, I have a bubble there. I think I'm gonna get out what I can, but otherwise we'll see what happens with that. I got my copies at Office Depot, 71 cents for a 8.5 by 11 sheet. I don't know if they're the same price everywhere, you know, because I know a lot of prices, depending on the state, depends on what prices are on everything. But now we'll let them sit 24 hours. If you have any questions on this, I know I kind of feel like I'm babbling. It's been a long day. But if you have any questions before I finish this process tomorrow, feel free to put them in the comments and I'll answer them in the last part of the video. Be kind to each other.